You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show. It was, believe it or not, it was an extremely boring day here in the United States of America. Nah, I'm just kidding, of course. Every day for the last, well, really since November, since the election, every single day has brought more news, generally pretty decent news, some bad news. You know, occasionally there's going to be bad news. It's just life. But a lot of the stuff, we just keep winning. Just keep winning. Just keep winning. Oh, yeah. Got a big show today, though. Big show. Got some important breaking news to talk about. It's funny because one of the segments that I do today is in one segment I'm talking about, hey, you know, release the files, and then shortly after running that segment I get another an alert that, hey, some of the files are getting released. This, of course, I'm talking about Pam Bondi announcing this evening that they are going to be releasing some of the Epstein files, redacted, but only redacted, allegedly redacted, for the sake of preserving the anonymity of the victims. They have suffered enough, so I'm okay as long as that's the extent of the redactions. We'll be talking about 17 signs that America's long economic slide threatens to turn into a full-blown avalanche. We'll also be talking about the fact that 118 illegal aliens were arrested at Colony Ridge, and then we're going to try to figure out, why does Colony Ridge even exist? Why do we have an entire subdivision of Houston that is dedicated to illegal aliens? Sort of doesn't make sense. We'll discuss how the USAID is funneling money for the deep state to wherever they want to go, and of course that is in the process. We're not there yet. Everybody's getting excited. I saw some headlines today saying, oh, USAID is dead. Let's not, okay, even in zombie form, even no matter what President Trump does, until it gets decreed and accepted and acknowledged across the board by the Supreme Court, that's when we will finally, I think, have our full victory against USAID and other corrupt elements of the deep state. But that's the big one. That's the one that I've been shooting for long before Doge, long before the second Trump administration. I've been going after USAID for a long time. DNC fact checker thought that they would post on X a AI generated audio of Donald Trump Jr. That was funny. Sad, but funny. IRS is shuttering 120 offices. It really is happening, folks. The things that, the promises made, promises kept. We had a good amount of those during the first Trump administration. I'm thinking that here in the second Trump administration, we're going to blow all that away. We are going to talk about not just, obviously, Pam Bondi releasing some of the Epstein files, but we're wondering, where are the JFK files? What about the RFK and the MLK files? These have all been instructions from President Trump have been to declassify and release them. So where are they? Inquiring minds want to know. And then, last but not least, we'll be talking about MSNBC's new hosts that, at least one of them, if you thought, oh my gosh, they got rid of Joy Reid, now they're going to maybe go back to sort of semi-normal, sort of coming back to the center a little bit instead of being so radically left-wing. Nope. That's definitely not their plan. Give me a sip of my Promise Grounds coffee. Good stuff here. Christian Coffee Company, jdrucker.com/coffee. Check them out. And otherwise, be sure, if you are watching, obviously if you just heard that, then you are watching and or at least listening. Be sure to subscribe. I don't care if you're watching on Rumble, X, YouTube, BitChute, wherever. Getter. We do very well on Getter. I'm very, very happy with our Getter audience. They're pretty awesome. Not that if you're not watching on Getter, that doesn't mean that you're not awesome, to be clear. But make sure that wherever you're watching that you subscribe. And be sure to give us a thumbs up in my ever perfect. Yeah, exactly. With that said down below, in my my ongoing mission to get my thumbs up on all the various platforms, get them up as high as possible, not because I'm a narcissist, but because it helps. It helps to get the word out there, and it's such an easy thing. You literally just click the button. That's it. Click a button, and you're done. If you haven't subscribed yet, you click two buttons. Click subscribe, and then click the thumbs up or the follow if you're on X or Getter or whatever. Just, you know what to do. You know the thing, as Joe Biden might say. Be sure to catch us every day at 9 p.m. We are sticking with, for now, we're sticking with the 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time slot. Even though I will admit we suffered a setback. The audience went from spiking one day to dropping the next day. I don't know what happened. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? You tell me. You can always reach out to me. I'm very easy to contact. Go to jdrucker.com/talk, jdrucker.com/talk. That'll come directly to me, and then let's talk. And if you prefer to send me a direct message via X, I do have open DMs. Easy to get a hold of me. Go to x.com/jdrucker, x.com/jdrucker. So let's get into the news, shall we? All right, seriously, what's the deal with the declassification of the Epstein files, the RFK Jr. or RFK files, JFK files, MLK files, Diddy files, whatever files they got? We were told they were going to be released. They haven't been released yet. Pam Bondi said, they're sitting on my desk. Why aren't they sitting on my desk or any other American citizen's desk? These are questions that are being asked, and I don't think we're getting very good answers. Ana Paulina Luna, the congresswoman out of Florida, has come out and said that her task force is making requests, trying to find out what's going on with the declassification of these documents. And I'll admit, look, and I like her. I think that she's an excellent member of Congress. She's generally on the right side of the political fence on the vast majority of issues. But I was skeptical. It's like, why have a task? Just release the documents. We don't need another task force out there to just. President Trump signed an executive order to release the documents. Now release the documents, right? Like, there's no need for a task force. Well, I was wrong because the documents haven't been released. And Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna has been making a stir, even going after Attorney General Pam Bondi directly and publicly. And now she just got a response earlier today from the Department of Justice. This is a response to her request for basically asking what the heck is going on. Dear Chairwoman Luna, thank you for your letters to the Department of Justice, dated February 11th and February 19th. We are sending an identical response to the other members who joined your letters. In your letters, you requested briefings about any documents in the Department's possession relating to the investigations and prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein and about the declassification of records regarding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., pursuant to Executive Order 14176. You also requested written confirmation of the date and location of these records' release. The integrity. Now, this is where, so that is basically paragraph 2 in this case, is just restating this is what you asked for, this is our response, and it's just a bunch of legalese, gobbledygook. The integrity of criminal investigations and prosecutions is essential to every component of the department's mission to uphold the rule of law, keep our nation safe, and protect civil rights. The department remains committed to meeting its legal record-keeping obligations as it pursues that mission. We are reviewing your requests and look forward to engaging further to accommodate your oversight and legislative needs. We hope this information is helpful. It wasn't. It wasn't any information at all. It was literally saying, yes, we need to be doing our job, and our job is to do our job, and that's our job. And thank you for asking, and we will continue to work with you to do our job. Except the only thing that's missing is that they're not doing their job. They're not abiding by Executive Order 14176, in which President Trump said that all of these documents need to be released. And if I recall, he said unredacted, which even if they're trying to redact this, that, or the other, they shouldn't be able to. They shouldn't be doing it anyway. The American people need full disclosure on these issues. Please do not hesitate to contact this office if we may provide additional assistance regarding this or any other matter. Signed, Patrick Davis, who is the Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Sorry, but that's just not good enough. Not good enough. I'm not happy. And now I understand why there was a need for what I thought was a frivolous and unnecessary new subcommittee that Anna Paulina Luna is chairing, the subcommittee on declassifying these particular documents. I thought, what a waste. I was wrong. We need it. We need somebody, especially somebody like her, out there demanding to know what's the problem. What is the deal? So now we're beyond just release the documents. Now we're on to release the documents and then explain what you were doing to the documents before you release them, because releasing the documents doesn't take weeks. We should just have them. You release them. That's it. Like Pam Bondi said, they're sitting on her desk. Okay. So you take the documents that are on your desk and you say, here, whoever, clerk, assistant, Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Patrick Davis, somebody take this, make a bunch of photocopies, scan them in, put them out there, send copies to Anna Paulina Luna and President Trump and let them all know, hey, this is what we're releasing. Good to go. Okay, great. We plan on releasing these in 20 minutes. Any challenges? No? Yes? No? That's it. Done. Released. And then let us talk about it, because I'm sure that we will find stuff in there to talk about. I don't know what the problem is. I think I do know, actually, what the problem is. And that's unfortunate, because the stalling is coming from Attorney General Pam Bondi, which means that it's coming from one step below, as far as the Department of Justice is concerned, that's one step below the President of the United States. She is the cabinet member responsible for this. So President Trump needs to be told or asked or whatever. Somebody's got to come out and say, hey, what's the problem here? What's going on? Why don't we have these documents disclosed? I have no commentary on this beyond that. I mean, I'm at loss. This feels like a cover-up again. A cover-up of a cover-up of a cover-up of a cover-up. Just release the damn documents. That's it. Done. Full stop. Thank you so much for watching that clip. I post a whole bunch of content every day. A lot of videos, a lot of articles. But the place where you can get the filtered version, just the best of the best, is on my Substack, jdrucker.substack.com. On any given day, I might post 15 or 20 videos, articles, whatever, on the rest of social media, the rest of my websites. But on Substack, I might only post 2, 3, 4 things a week. So go to jdrucker.substack.com. It's free. And, you get the best of Rucker without getting the rest of Rucker. Well, shortly after recording that particular segment, I look up and see breaking news that Pam Bondi has gone on to Jesse Waters' show and said that she's going to release maybe as soon as tomorrow, Thursday, she's going to release some of the Epstein tapes. Now, I do feel a little bit bad for saying just release them all, no redactions, no redactions. I didn't take into account the victims, so I apologize for that. She's right, and we will hopefully get the mildly redacted version. I don't want any of the victims exposed. They've already suffered enough at the hands of not just Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but also obviously of the powerful pedophiles that went and did what they did on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, on Jeffrey Epstein's island, wherever it was that he took them and the victims. So great. Yeah, feel a little bit bad, but I'm glad. Hey, we got the story that we wanted. At least part of it is. I would want more. I don't want to hear. We might release some of it tomorrow. I want to say, hey, we're going to release it all tomorrow. Department of Justice has enough people. I'm still going to be critical of Pam Bondi until we get the full reporting on all of this stuff. But at least we got some good news. Here's that news itself.
Last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah, what you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for sure.
He sure did.
All right, so again, like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. But this is a good sign. This will give us something to talk about on Thursday. Meet Eugene Daniels, MSNBC's new host, who is just like the old hosts, or perhaps even worse. When MSNBC fired Joy Reid and others over the weekend, there were some people who thought, hey, maybe they're going to go back to the center. Maybe they're... Okay, so nobody actually thought that. But at least we were hoping that maybe they would bring in some people that were still radical leftists, but maybe not as insane. I don't know. Maybe not as polarizing. No, they didn't go down that road. Instead, they picked somebody who might be even more polarizing than Joy Reid herself. Now, her brand has always been about race. It's always about race. Everything's about race, and specifically not just race in general, but specifically black versus white. She's been an antagonizer of racism throughout her entire media career. That's her shtick. That's her thing, right? It's like always anyway. You get the point. Well, Eugene Daniels, who was the former Politico White House correspondent, he might actually be worse than she is when it comes to framing everything into any words that are spoken. They have to be about race.
He has a hard time running against Vice President Harris because she's a black woman. You remember, actually, when he would tussle with the women that would ask him questions, our colleagues on the White House beat. Reporters. He held his kind of most angry self for black women, right? If they asked him a question, he would have the worst things to say about them. So you're seeing that, right?
I can think of three off the top of my head.
Right, off the top of our head. And when he talked about Joe Biden got worse, Harris was born like that, right? That's different. That's a dog whistle to folks to say, the white guy just got older and it got worse, but the black lady was born dumb. That is the kind of thing that Donald Trump is saying and selling to folks.
Yeah.
So let's be crystal clear about that. He says it was a dog whistle that President Trump noted that Joe Biden got worse with age, but Kamala was born that way. And because Kamala's black, that must mean that it's a dog whistle, that the black woman was born dumb. Let's be clear. This particular individual, Kamala Harris, regardless of her race or gender or anything else, She definitely was born dumb. I mean, she has been unintelligent the entirety of her life. And there was a time when Joe Biden was considered to be a pretty sharp cat back in the Senate. You know, he was actually considered to be maybe not the brilliant, brightest guy out there. He's not like Rand Paul or Ted Cruz or somebody who was actually legitimately intelligent. But I mean, he was sharp, especially compared to what he ended up becoming just before running for the presidency, and then during his term, he was gone. Okay, he was gone. His mental acuity was zilch. Well, Kamala Harris has been that dumb throughout her entire adult life, so it wasn't a dog whistle, unless Eugene Daniels wants to say that, oh well, he said John Bolton was dumb as rocks. Is John Bolton now a black woman? What about Chris Christie? He ripped on Chris Christie's intelligence. Is Chris Christie now what we call a minority? A black woman of some sort? I don't know. I think that the reality is leftists, particularly in media, they have a very hard time trying to justify their perspectives about Donald Trump and about MAGA in general, but Donald Trump specifically. They can't. They don't get the examples that they need to back their premises. So they make them up. They take anything that President Trump says. I mean, don't even get me started on the entirety of the Charlottesville very fine people hoax. That was. I mean, I'm glad that they did that, because that actually woke a bunch of people up. It really did. A lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, everybody's telling me he's racist," and then they see the entire clip. See him completely and totally disavowing the Nazis and the white supremacists just a few seconds later. And it's like, wait a second, why didn't legacy media tell me this? Why didn't Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton or anybody else tell me the truth? Why do they hide this? Maybe, just maybe, they've been lying the entire time. And I would imagine that Eugene Daniels, in his new role as a host at MSNBC, MSDNC really, that he's going to continue the proud tradition of MSNBC hosts that make their living off of race baiting and stupidity. Former CIA analyst Jim Rickards has built a reputation over the decades really, of being able to read the writing on the wall and make determinations, make predictions. Some of them are going to be right around the corner. Others are going to be further down the road. But either way, he's usually right. It's very uncanny how good he is at this stuff. His latest analysis, which you can find for yourself at jdrucker.com/crisis, jdrucker.com/crisis. His latest analysis surrounds President Trump's tariffs. Now, they have been, in my humble opinion, wildly successful so far. They've been able to make certain things happen that I think a lot of people didn't think were possible. And of course, they have a dramatic potential revenue generating effect for the United States of America. But with that said, there are certain risks, certain challenges, and it's not just going to come from China or Canada or Mexico or Colombia or wherever. According to Rickards, he thinks that the biggest threat sits right in the heart of New York City. Crazy stuff. And he thinks that there are things that we need to do as American citizens to prepare, because things are already in motion. According to Rickards, this next major event, which will happen, according to his prediction, between now and April 11th, 2025, something that we should pay attention to. So go and check out his latest prediction, jdrucker.com/crisis. See if there's something there for you to gain from and to potentially prepare for, because the world is changing. For us, it seems as if it's changing very much for the better. But there are going to be certain challenges, certain risks. And I think being prepared for those challenges, being prepared for those risks, that's the difference between thriving or just making it by. 118 illegal aliens arrested in Texas's largest migrant colony raids. Now we can talk about, happy news. You know, you got 118 criminal illegal aliens, those who have committed some of them very hideous crimes. We can talk about, oh, yeah, that's good. We can talk about, okay, you know, Tom Homan is working with local law enforcement. Borders are ICE working with Texas law enforcement, and Greg Abbott is side by side with him. They're working it out. They've been working on this for months. All this is great. Okay, great. But my question is, why in the world do we have a migrant colony at all? And apparently multiple. This isn't the migrant colony. This is the largest of the migrant colonies. There are apparently other migrant colonies around the nation. And why is that? Somebody, make it make sense to me. Why would we have entire subdivisions of major cities that have been built and set aside for illegal aliens? Serious question. I mean, I can't fathom why that's the case. Do we need detention centers for those who are captured and are about to be deported? You betcha. Gitmo or just some other detention centers, whatever. Great. We need those. Okay. But these aren't detention centers. These aren't people that are waiting to be deported. These are people that are integrating into American society with a support mechanism in the heart of Texas, of all places. Quote unquote, red Texas has this large, huge, it's not just large, this is a tremendous, quote unquote, migrant colony. And I want to know why, but let's get into this article by Randy Clark over at Breitbart. Immigration and Customs Enforcement special agents and other state and local law enforcement officials arrested 118 illegal aliens during Monday's immigration raid inside the Colony Ridge subdivision near Houston, Texas. According to ICE, the multi-agency immigration raid netted migrants charged with a myriad of criminal charges and criminal convictions. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced the raids and the participation of state law enforcement agencies, saying he had worked on the raids with Trump border czar Tom Homan for months. According to ICE, the migrants arrested during Monday's raid inside the more than 30,000-acre subdivision were facing charges and or convictions of crimes that included criminal sexual conduct, homicide, theft, negligent manslaughter, child sexual abuse, crimes of moral turpitude, weapons offenses, and drug offenses. As reported by Breitbart Texas, one migrant arrest involved a 3-time deported Salvadorian illegal alien facing charges of repeated sexual abuse of a child in Plum Grove, Texas, during the Colony Ridge raids. ICE officials told Breitbart Texas, and this is a quote from doesn't say who. Oh, okay. From an ICE official. Said U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement conducts routine daily enforcement alongside our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners throughout the Houston community to bolster public safety, national security, and border security, yada, 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 yada. But it doesn't answer the question. Why is there a migrant facility? And why are we even calling it a migrant facility? These are illegal aliens. Okay? I don't care. They're asylum seekers, they're migrants, they're undocumented, whatever. No, they're illegal aliens. That's it. Okay? There are different classifications. There are different types of people who are here legally or illegally. These people in this migrant colony are illegal aliens, and they need to be deported. Great. We're going to start with the criminals, the dangerous people. Fine, but it's going to have to work its way all the way around throughout the quote unquote migrant community. Now, I get it. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of staunch conservatives even, who are compassionate, who are like, you know what? We can't just deport them all, right? Let's get rid of the criminals. Let's get rid of the gang members. Let's get rid of the terrorists, the bad guys. There's plenty of those. We can focus on them for the next 4 years, and let's get rid of all them. But let's not focus on the people that are just here to make a better life. I wholeheartedly disagree. But with that said, I shouldn't say but, and with that said, we should also all acknowledge, even if you are one of those who are compassionate, there's no need or reason, no viable reason to have an entire quote-unquote colony, basically a town that has been set aside for illegal aliens. I don't care if they've never broken any other law other than crossing the border illegally and stealing our sovereignty. Okay? I don't care if they are, but they're paying taxes. Their kids are growing up with our kids or whatever. Look, they're not supposed to be here. So if we can have the debate about whether or not we should deport them, but by golly, don't even try to debate me about whether or not we should be building a colony for them, building a subdivision of a major U.S. city for them, not when we have millions of American citizens, veterans, non-veterans alike, millions of American citizens who are living on the streets or living in their vans or living on somebody's couch. Millions of American citizens who would love for somebody to go and build a 30,000 acre colony for them, give them a house, give them food. And I'm not saying that we should necessarily do that. I'm just saying you can't make the argument that we need to do this for the illegal aliens until we take care of our own citizens first. My gosh. And this is happening. Look, I get it. A lot of people like Greg Abbott. I'm not a fan. I think he's a rhino. I think he's milquetoast at best. He's not necessarily bad at certain things, but he's definitely not, oh my gosh, that guy is so inspiring. And oh, wow, he's a real go-getter for MAGA. No, he's slightly above mediocre at best. And here in his state is a quote-unquote migrant colony that is, well, at least until Monday, was housing at least 118 violent criminal illegal aliens. This migrant colony that was built in Greg Abbott's Texas had child rapists in there. And if it wasn't for Tom Homan and President Trump, then those child rapists and murderers and whatever would still be roaming the streets. Not just roaming the streets of Colony Ridge, but probably roaming the streets of Houston or anywhere else. I get it. A lot of people want to be compassionate, or at least show some kindness. I disagree, but that's a debate that we can have. What cannot be debated is the notion that we're actually building entire cities, basically, for illegal aliens. That's stupid. IRS to shutter 120 offices nationwide. Praise God. Hallelujah. Yes, it really is happening, folks. I don't think I've ever said that. It's happening. It really is happening. I've never been that guy, okay? But I'm coming around. I'm coming around to the idea that maybe some of the things, maybe all of the things that we thought we were going to get from a second Trump administration, that they really are going to come true. And look, I was a fan of his first administration. He did very well, probably better than any president in our lifetimes. He did very well at fulfilling the promises that he made on the campaign trail. But this time around, this campaign, he made a lot more promises, bigger promises. He's done, just in less than a month and a half, he's already done more to fulfill those promises than I would argue that he was able to accomplish even in his first term. I know that's a lot, saying a lot, but my gosh, there's just a different attitude here. And one of those promises was to reduce, at the very least, the IRS. Now, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on from a conservative perspective. I would say most conservatives, most patriots believe that the IRS should be greatly overhauled, reformed, reduced. Then there's the radicals like me, the extremists, who think that the IRS should be completely abolished. Regardless of which side of that particular aisle you're on, this news should be viewed in a very positive light. Of course, they're going to try to make it negative, they being the legacy media and the Democrats, but we'll see what happens. This article comes to us from the post-millennial Roberto Walkerell Cruz reporting. The Trump administration is moving forward with plans to shut down more than 120 IRS offices that provide taxpayer assistance as part of a broader effort to reduce the federal government's footprint and cut costs. The decision, outlined in the letter from the U.S. General Services Administration obtained by the Washington Post, comes at a crucial time, right in the middle of the federal tax filing season, which ends April 15th. Now, let's be clear. This, to me, is a good thing. A lot of people are like, oh, we're cutting employees and we're cutting offices right in the middle of tax season. Good. Okay. This is a test. And this, to me, is the ultimate test of the efforts, not just by the Trump administration as a whole, but specifically by DOJ. This is a test to see if the load bearing capabilities of the federal bureaucracy. If the IRS during this busy tax filing season, if the IRS can handle losing 7,000 employees and 120 over 120 offices, which is approximately 1/3 of what they have nationwide, if tax season goes as well as it should, then hey, that's proof positive of massive amounts of government bloat. But here's the thing. They're going to try, they being the legacy media, Democrats on Capitol Hill, plus, and importantly, leftists or Trump haters or Musk haters, which there's a lot of them, within the IRS itself that are going to try to paint this as a disaster. They're going to take every little, oh my gosh, this person, it'll be something like this poor single mother was supposed to get a tax return, but because of the IRS cuts that Trump and Musk made, now that her check's delayed and we can't do anything about it. And I welcome those. Generally, they will be false. I welcome those reports because I think that it will demonstrate. They will be able to take those individual instances and prove that, hey, this isn't because of the cuts, it's because of government inefficiency. Or I think they're going to find times when it's because of sabotage. It was intentional harm would be done in order to try to prove a point. We know that the radical left is willing to do anything. They will harm anybody else. They generally don't harm themselves that much, but they'll harm anybody else if it means that they get their way. That's just standard operating procedure for being on the left. It sucks, but it's true. They're willing to sacrifice other people, not themselves again, but they are willing to sacrifice other people if that means that they're going to get their point across. So we will see. I welcome the challenge of reducing workforce and reducing buildings for whatever, for tax help, and then watching to see how the nation is able to respond, how the IRS is able to respond. I think that they're going to do just fine. Back to the article. This move follows the recent layoffs of approximately 7,000 probationary IRS employees and aligns with the administration's push to decrease the agency's headcount. The closure will impact at least 128 taxpayer assistance centers across the country, where filers can receive free in-person tax help by appointment. It remains unclear whether these centers will be relocated or permanently closed, and I do pray that it is the latter. According to the letter, signed by GSA Commissioner for Public Buildings, Michael Peters, all soft-term leases, those that can be terminated on a short notice, will be ended unless deemed public-facing. These cases will be reviewed individually. The decision marks a huge shift after years of expansion aimed at supposedly improving customer service. The agency had opened or reopened more than 50 assistance centers since the passage of the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, which of course it was the Inflation Expansion Act, a hidden Green New Deal, yada, yada, yada discussion for another day, increasing the total number of locations to over 360 nationwide. Per the letter, IRS employees will have at least 120 days to vacate the affected offices once lease terminations are officially announced. Notifications to landlords are expected to begin immediately. Like I said, it's happening, folks. It's happening. They are going to try to derail us. They are going to try to blame Trump, blame Musk, blame whoever, anybody they can on anything that goes wrong. And there will be things that go wrong. Let's be clear about that. There is going to be collateral damage. There will be repercussions. There will be mistakes made, not just from this, but from every massive cut that happens. Something's going to slip through the cracks, something that maybe shouldn't have been cut, some employee that was awesome that shouldn't have been fired, some whatever. There's going to be collateral damage, but here's the thing, folks, and please do not miss this point. We cannot go through with a scalpel. We have to continue the Doge approach of going through with a battle axe and a chainsaw. And you can't be as accurate. You're going to make some mistakes. But there's so much government bloat right now that even if, let's say, somebody, because I think it's actually somebody on the right, a conservative, I don't remember who, but who suggested, hey, instead of taking the chainsaw, why don't we just hire like like 100,000 people to go audit things, and then we can do the scalpel approach, but do it rapidly. And that still wouldn't work. You need to limit the exposure as much as possible, because what one person with a scalpel, contractor or government employee or bureaucrat or whatever, what one person with a scalpel might think is waste, another person might think it's not, right? Plus, of course, you're adding waste in order to get rid of waste. I disagree. We have to take the lumps as they come. There will be lumps. There's going to be the whole notion of if you're going to make omelets, you got to break some eggs. I get it. Pick your favorite analogy. Bottom line is, we're talking about gargantuan bloat, gargantuan inefficiency. We're talking about a gargantuan government. And I don't care how many people you send out there with scalpels, it's not going to be able to get the job done. We need the chainsaw approach. That's what's happening. That's what's happening here. They're not sitting there and determining which office is the most efficient. They're saying, how many can we cut? Okay, cut them. All the ones with short-term leases, cut them all. And if some of them are quote-unquote public-facing, we'll look at those on an individual basis. If we're going to analyze, let's analyze from the point of bulk. We have to dismantle this gigantic government as much as possible. So don't get cold feet. Don't start looking, oh my gosh, look at the repercussions. Look at the damage done to this life or that life or the others. I get it. There's going to be repercussions. But we have to stay the course. Because if we don't, if we worry about this mistake or that mistake, and we start to slow down or even stop the use of the chainsaw, then we might as well hang it up, because we're not going to be able to continue like this as a nation for very much longer. Ever since all this USAID hoopla got started following the exposure by Doge, I've been a very strong proponent of the notion that we need to stop looking at all the stupid things, the funny things, the ha-ha, oh, look at this opera in Colombia. We need to stop focusing on those things and actually try to expose the real threat the USAID poses, the evils that it pushes across the globe for the deep state, for the Central Intelligence Agency. It's used to topple governments. It's used to build assets that work against America's best interests. I've been a proponent of that from the beginning. And then stories like this pop up, and it's like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah, I guess we do need to expose the dumb stuff as well. According to the Federalist, Jordan Boyd over there, USAID blew hundreds of thousands in taxpayer slush funds on Ukrainian pickle maker, as well as pet accessories. The U.S. Agency for International Development spent millions of American taxpayer dollars propping up pet projects like dog collar manufacturing and pickle making in Ukraine, and then spent months stonewalling members of Congress about that spending. Senator Joni Ernst's staff uncovered these secret slush funds when, after months of enduring the agency's excuses to justify its resistance to oversight, they were finally permitted access to very limited data. In October 2024, as Ernst has since detailed, the senator's staff visited USAID headquarters in person for an in-camera review of Ukraine assistance data, even though her team discovered the documents were not classified, nor should they be. We're talking about pickle making. I mean, are we having covert stealth nuclear pickles being made in Ukraine? Are these somehow, I don't know, I'm not sure what they're thinking. But they know what they're thinking, and they know. Even though they were heavily restricted during their investigation, Ernst's team discovered a variety of U.S. taxpayer-funded grants funneled to Ukrainian businesses under the guise of both competitive economic programs and investment for business resilience funds. Fancy words for, hey, we're laundering money for the sake of the CIA. We're building up CIA assets. Among the grants Ernst's staff discovered were hundreds of thousands of dollars devoted to literal pet projects, including approximately $300,000 to a pet tracking app, approximately $300,000 more to a dog collar manufacturer, and approximately another $109,000 to a pet food packaging producer, according to findings breakdown Ernst's office sent to the Federalists. Now, here's the thing. When I said in the beginning, I was sort of setting you all up for this because I said that we do need to try to expose the real problems with USAID, not just the DEI problems or the woke problems or the funny, haha, that's crazy problems. But this does qualify because there is zero chance that you can convince me or really any lucid American that they're actually truly feeling that these dog collar manufacturers are somehow humanitarian aid. We do need to look into this stuff because it's not like the CIA is going out there. Okay, so pay this guy and mark it as a covert anti-Taliban asset. No. They wouldn't say that, nor would they probably even have an anti-Taliban asset, but that's a discussion for another day. No, they would say, we need this guy. He's got information that we can use against Putin. And so, but we can't really have it on the books. So let's just call it pet food packaging producer. This is why a U.S. senator and her staff, Joni Ernst, had such a hard time getting information about a pet tracking app or a pickle maker or a dog collar manufacturer. This stuff here, we can joke about it and say, oh, that's so funny, that's so stupid. But in reality, this is where you're really going to uncover the evils are being perpetrated through USAID on behalf of the deep state. There's a gold rush going on right now, not just by central banks, not just by entire countries, not just by those trying to refill Fort Knox before Elon Musk and President Trump get there. No, there's a gold rush happening amongst individual Americans. It's a gold and silver rush, and it's specifically attracting people of retirement age. People are starting to realize that maybe they don't need their IRAs or 401ks or whatever stuck in the stock market. Maybe they should be looking at physical precious metals like gold and silver. Now, I am not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just going to tell you who to talk to if you've already made up your mind and you think maybe I should consider it. Go to jdrgold.com, jdrgold.com, or call 800-200-4653. That's 800-200-GOLD. And check out what the folks over at Genesis Gold Group can do for you. They are a faith-driven precious metals company. They don't do the scams, the cheats, the tactics, such as offering free or bonus silver. It's never free, and it's not really a bonus. You're paying for it. They just tack it onto the price and then say, "Oh, look, here's free, here's bonus." No. It's they probably have a good role to play in government, at least the old government. I would imagine that Doge and Elon Musk would sniff out their scams. But if you want to deal with a direct and honest company to do a tax-free rollover or transfer of your IRA, go to jdrgold.com, jdrgold.com. You'll receive a free definitive wealth protection kit, plus you will be contacted by my good friends at Genesis Gold Group. 17 signs that America's long economic slide threatens to become an economic avalanche. Now, let me say something up front before I get too many negative comments. I fully trust and endorse President Trump's economic plan. He's surrounded himself with some very smart people. His take on tariffs, on taxes, on cutting expenses, these seem to be in line with pretty close to what I would want to happen. And I think a lot of times whenever you say, oh, the economy has challenges, all of a sudden people start getting in there. Oh, you must be anti-MAGA. You must hate Trump. You must be a rhino. It's the rhinos that concern me. It's the fact that we have a Republican-controlled Congress and Senate that seem to be very much aligned with the status quo. You see a little bit of movement here and there. That's great. But we're talking about a massive hole that has been built ever since COVID. Obviously, the lockdowns and the subsequent COVID policies were extraordinarily detrimental to the economy, and then we had to follow that up with 4 years of the Biden-Harris regime. do not be naive and think, oh, well, Trump's in, so now it's all economy is going to be rosy. I think that it will be eventually, but it's going to take time, and we're going to have to overcome many, many challenges. So the facts that are in this article that I'm about to share with you from Michael Snyder over at the Economic Collapse blog, you might disagree with some of his conclusions. I know I do, but we cannot deny the fact that there are massive economic challenges happening right now. Just because President Trump was inaugurated less than a month and a half ago doesn't mean all of a sudden it's like, yay, America's economy is thriving as a result. It will. I truly believe that. But we still have a lot of work to do. Let's get to the article itself. We have this. This is from the Economic Collapse blog, cross-posted with permission over at AmericanPoliticalReport.com. And I gave a similar disclaimer in the article itself. I'm not going to read that. Let's get into the article, though. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? If you are, you should consider yourself to be extremely fortunate, because the vast majority of the population is not. The U.S. economy has been sliding the wrong direction for a very long time, and now our economic momentum in the wrong direction is accelerating. Retail sales are slowing down. The housing market is in a depressed state. Mass layoffs are happening all over the nation. Stores are closing at a staggering pace. The cost of living has become extremely painful, and debt levels have soared to unprecedented heights. 4 years of deteriorating economic conditions have brought us to a breaking point, and now we are witnessing quite a bit of shaking in the financial markets. Even though many in the mainstream media are still trying to deny it, the truth is that we are in an enormous amount of trouble. The following are 17 signs that America's long economic slide threatens to become an economic avalanche. Number 1, the Conference Board's Index of Consumer Confidence just experienced the largest drop that we have seen since August of 2021. It's not good. Number 2, the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index just fell to the lowest level that we've seen since November of 2023. Starting to see a trend here. Number 3, retail sales in the United States just fell by the most in nearly 2 years. Number 4, Walmart is warning us that it will experience a year-over-year drop in quarterly profits for the first time in 3 years. Number 5, last month, sales of previously owned homes dropped 4.9%. Number 6, the cost of living is absolutely crushing most Americans. At this stage, almost 70% of all single adults struggle to afford their regular rent or mortgage payments. Now let's assess what we just heard. Consumer confidence down, home sales, retail sales, everything seems to be down. You might say, but President Trump is in office. Things should be heading in the right direction. Let's not forget that the effects of economic policy coming from D.C. or at a state level, coming from your state house, coming from the governor's office, those effects as far as the economy usually take anywhere from 1 to 3 quarters to truly start having an impact. We don't respond in the stock market, gold prices, crypto, all of those things. Those respond very quickly to the news cycle, whereas full-blown economic indicators, such as consumer sentiment, those take time. So just because President Trump is in office, don't assume that all of a sudden consumer confidence is going to rise, that Walmart is going to be printing money again. They're doing better than what this indicates, to be clear. But they just got overtaken by Amazon just last month as far as being the biggest retailer. Now, they are not. That's not just a sign of the economy. That's also a sign of the changing times and the way that we are becoming more of a digital economy, more so every day. And I'm saddened by that in many ways. But yeah, that's one of those aspects of progress that there's not much you can do. I hate it when we see, especially when, I don't care about Walmart, but especially when we see like mom and pop stores shutting down, not because they did anything wrong, not because the economy's bad, not because their products aren't worth it, but oftentimes it's because they're just moving online. Why keep a storefront? Why pay rent? Why not just ship it out of your garage if you have a small enough inventory, or even just rent a small warehouse? Cheaper than trying to sell retail, keeping a bunch of employees, yada, yada, yada. So those are shifts. There's some of them are happening as a result of quote-unquote progress. Some of them are happening because we just experienced the worst economic policies of our entire lifetimes. I mean, the economic policies of Biden-Harris regime were worse than Jimmy Carter's. I know it's crazy, hard to believe, but it's true. So keep all of that in mind. Let's keep going with the list. Number 7, Starbucks is telling us that they will be laying off more than 1,000 corporate employees. Now, to be clear, that one is one that is, we saw that one coming last year. They were talking about it for a while, and a lot of people will blame their wokeness for it. I don't disagree. Number 8, Southwest Airlines is giving the axe to more than 1,700 corporate employees. I'm not as familiar with that particular story. Let's see if we can read into it, see what they say. Southwest Airlines said Monday that it is cutting about 15% of corporate jobs, or about 1,750 people, a move its CEO called unprecedented as the company scrambles to cut costs. The company said it expects savings from the cuts of $210 million this year and about $300 million in 2026. The layoffs will be mostly done by the end of the second quarter and include some senior leadership roles, CEO Bob Jordan said in a staff note, which was seen by CNBC. All right, well, I don't know what that's from, so there's that. Number 9, Blue Origin has decided to fire nearly 14,000 workers. Jeez. That's a Jeff Bezos company, by the way. Number 10, Chevron has announced that it will be reducing the size of their workforce by about 15 to 20%. Chevron. Interesting. Estee Lauder is telling thousands of employees that it is time to hit the bricks. They're looking at 5,800 to 7,000 roles being removed from the beauty giant. Number 12, so many federal workers are being fired that initial claims for unemployment benefits in Washington, D.C. went up by 36% in just 1 week. And I see nothing negative about that particular point of the story. Number 13, Forever 21 has announced that it will be closing another 200 stores. Now, let me get back up there just a little bit before I go much further. I don't like it when anybody loses their job, even federal employees. I don't want to make it sound like I'm too callous. But I do know that that represents a dramatic shift in the way that D.C. operates. Do I feel bad for the individuals that lose their jobs? Yeah, I think in most cases I do. But it's necessary. So I don't want to just say, oh, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal if you're involved. If you're one of those employees or the family member of one of those employees, then it sucks. But there are opportunities. I do believe that they can move forward. Back to the article. Number 14, Joann Inc. has decided to close all of their stores in the United States. And again, I think that has less to do necessarily with the economy and more to do with just the shifting paradigm within retail itself. Number 15, overall, Coresight Research is projecting that an all-time record 15,000 stores will be permanently closed in the United States in 2025. 15,000 stores. That actually, I'll admit, that's far more than I would have expected. I've seen, store closings here, 300 here, 500 there, but for 15,000 retail stores to be closed, I'd want to look deeper into that to see what they're counting as store closures. And again, a lot of times I think that some of these stores are not necessarily closing, they're closing their doors, but they're just moving online. Yeah, it can be very lucrative. A lot of companies have gone to a straight online retail stance. And it can be effective. Talk about cutting costs. As much as I hate it, because I do hate it, I miss the day. I used to go to the mall. Now, for you kids out there who don't know what the mall is, it's a place where they used to put a bunch of retail stores, and those malls are unfortunately shutting down. Not just because of the retail aspect of it, but because those kids that are aware of the mall seem to go there and want to cause trouble. But that's a whole other issue. Number 16, household debt in the United States has now crossed the $18 trillion mark. We actually covered this the other day. Talked about this, how overall debt, technically speaking, is over $100 trillion, and household debt over $18 trillion. That's insane. It's utterly insane. I mean, it seems almost insurmountable, and I would argue that maybe it is. But that doesn't mean that we stop trying. Number 17, and this is the last one, more than $26 trillion have been added to the U.S. national debt since the start of 2009, since the opening of the Obama administration, the Obama regime. And now we are shelling out more than $8 trillion a year just in interest payments. It's nearly half of every dollar taxed. Every tax dollar is spent just to service the interest. And as I covered in a segment of my show the other day, we often say that it's taxpayer dollars that pay for this, pay for that. Oh, they're being paid by taxpayer dollars. That's not true. That's not true. That's not how the system actually works in the United States of America. The U.S. government borrows money to pay off this, that, or the other, to pay for this worker, for that grant, for this trans opera in Colombia. That money is loaned. It's borrowed by the U.S. government. What our taxpayer dollars are spent on is servicing that debt. This is the central bank model. It's designed to eventually collapse. 100% of the time, to be clear. Like, there is no, either the central banks are eliminated or they eliminate the countries that they service. Those are the only two possible conclusions. They cannot sustain indefinitely. It's not possible. So when we say, oh, our taxpayer dollars are going to pay for this or that, our taxpayer dollars, all of them, are being paid to service the debt, not just in the form of interest, but also in paying it back, paying it down, allegedly. This is one of the reasons why there's a little bit of a minor tiff amongst Republicans, with Doge talking about giving a $5,000, basically a dividend or a Doge refund or whatever you want to call it. President Trump seems open to that concept. Then you've got Speaker Mike Johnson saying, hey, no, let's not do that. Let's just take that money and pay down the debt. We can have that debate about where's our money better spent? Is it better spent being sent back to us, or is it better spent paying down the debt and reducing our overall liability to service our debt? These are questions for people with calculators, and I don't have a calculator in front of me, and I'm not going to even try to work on those particular equations because it is futile. This is one of the reasons that I have been just so, what's the best way to put it? I don't want to sound like a fearmonger, but I will say this. You need to take time right now to assess your financial situation and determine whether or not it makes sense for you to cut things. I would say for the vast majority of us, it's time to cancel that Netflix subscription. It's time to start getting into things that are beneficial. Growing a garden, for example. Seeds in the long run are a heck of a lot cheaper than buying groceries at the grocery store. Plus, there may come a time in the near future where you just can't go to the grocery store, or where the grocery store doesn't have any more whatever, tomatoes or potatoes or whatever. Or the ones that they have there are completely genetically modified. If Maha eventually fails and all of a sudden we just have Frankenfood and genetically modified everything in stores, it would behoove us to be able to grow our own food, to raise our own chickens. I'll bet you those people sitting there with their little mini chicken coops in their backyards getting eggs every day, they're probably pretty happy with their investment. I would say that would make a lot of sense. Again, it depends upon your situation. And it's not just about food either. It is about pretty much everything else. Tighten up. Just because President Trump is in the White House, just because it appears that we are shifting gears and heading in a better direction when it comes to the economy, doesn't mean that we should get complacent. And that definitely doesn't mean that we should rely on anyone, even President Trump, to make sure that our families are taken care of in the long term. All I'm suggesting, folks, is to get ready, get prepared, continue to become as self-sufficient and independent as possible. We never know what's going to come in the near future, and these economic challenges could turn into economic collapse very, very quickly. It's best to get prepared now. One of my good friends was telling me about, I was asking him because he owns a crypto company. And I asked, oh my gosh, did you get hit bad? Bitcoin dropped like 15% or something like that overnight. I'm like, did you get hit bad? He's like, no, we were already out. I was like, what do you mean? And he explained to me that his company, they don't They don't do the buy and hold strategy, which is what the vast majority of these companies do, even the quote unquote managed accounts. His company, which deals with backing IRAs or cash, doesn't have to be a retirement account. It could be cash, could be whatever. They take these managed accounts and they manage them. Okay, they use artificial intelligence, which I know I'm not a big fan of, but hey, there's certain times when it works. They use artificial intelligence to determine how to manage the money. In other words, money's in Bitcoin today, for example, and then their AI reading the signals, guesstimating, what's going to happen in the future. They might pull out a Bitcoin and put it into a stable coin. And then as soon as Bitcoin drops and gets to the point where the AI says, okay, we're at the bottom, then it takes it from the stable coin, puts it back into Bitcoin. So technically speaking, for him and for his company and for their clients, being able to let the account manage itself, being able to let the experts, it's not just AIs making all the decisions. They have crypto experts working with AI, taking the data and determining when do we put it into crypto, when do we put it into stable, when do we put it back into crypto. They're playing that game, and they're doing it in a way that is absolutely brilliant. So I asked him, I said, how did you guys take a big hit? He's like, no. It's like, we pulled out at like 96K. It's like, what you pulled out? It's like, yeah, we took all of our clients, we put them into into stable coins, and then the next day, just so it happened the next day, Bitcoin went from like 96K down to like 84K or something like that. I don't know where it was. I'm like, wow, nice job. He's like, yeah. And then he actually told me the number. I'm not going to repeat the number because it makes it sound like I'm giving financial advice. But he said, yeah, the algorithm is telling us that we're going to have to wait until it gets to this number, and then we pull it out of the stablecoin, put it back into crypto, or back into Bitcoin, and then we're anticipating the Bitcoin will at that point rise pretty rapidly to X number. I don't want to. Again, I'm not a Bitcoin expert. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. The reason I'm telling you all of this is because they're doing it the right way. When Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, when they go up, then their clients make money. When Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever go down, then their clients make money. It's like, when he was telling me about this initially, it's like, dude, that sounds like one of those old scams. He's like, no, man, this is legit. So I checked it out. They asked me to accept them as a sponsor of the show. I said, sure, let's give it a shot. And thus far, I've been extraordinarily impressed. Go to JD Rucker. Scratch all that. Go to I'm so excited about the crypto. I forgot the URL. Go to jdrcrypto.com, jdrcrypto.com, and see what they can do. Again, it's for IRAs, but you don't have to have an IRA. You can open up an account with just cash, right? Cash, transfer, rollover, do a tax-free rollover of your IRA or your 401k or your whatever. You have all of those options available to you. jdrcrypto.com. A DNC, quote, fact-checking account shares fake AI-generated recording of Donald Trump Jr. Put this into your filing cabinet under you can't make this up. This is a fact-checking account on X from the DNC, initially from operatives within the Kamala Harris campaign. And as a fact-checking organization, they decided to post a blatantly, obviously AI-generated audio clip of Donald Trump Jr. saying that we should be arming the Russians instead of the Ukrainians. You can't make it up. These people fall under the category of either they're really, really, really stupid, or they're banking on their audience, Democrats, leftists, being really, really, really stupid. That's it. I mean, those are the only two possibilities. You can't take this. And again, and it's unfortunate I didn't clip it when it was available. They, of course, deleted it later once people started calling him out for it, because they're not only stupid, but they're also cowards. Can't just come out and say, oops, sorry, we were fooled. No, they just have to try to sweep it under the rug because these are, I mean, legitimately just weak human beings. Okay, very, very weak human beings, if you want to call them that. Comes to us from the post-millennial, Hayden Cunningham. And again, I really wish I would have just clipped it because you would have loved to have heard it. Because again, it's blatant. It's obvious. It's like, yeah, that's definitely AI generated. You don't need an AI checker to know that, even though the AI checker came back with, yep, 100%. But whatever. An X account owned and operated by the Democratic National Committee is facing criticism after posting an AI-generated audio recording falsely attributed to Donald Trump Jr. The account, Fact Post News, shared a fabricated quote in which Trump Jr. criticized Ukraine and said the U.S. should have aided Russia in the ongoing war. This is what he said. The AI-generated version of Trump Jr. said, I honestly can't imagine anyone in their right mind picking Ukraine as an ally. Honestly, the U.S. should have been sending weapons to Russia. The quote was amplified by Republicans against Trump, that awful account on X. Both accounts deleted their posts after backlash from social media users who pointed out the audio was fake. Trump Jr. highlighted the issue by reposting Republican strategist Andrew Surabian, who wrote, "This is 100% fake AI-generated audio, but I'm sure that won't stop anti-Trump resistance accounts from continuing to dishonestly spread it." GOP Majority Whip Tom Emmer also condemned the post, sharing a screenshot of the since-deleted message and stating, "The Democrats continue to find ways to reach new lows. This time, an official account that is owned and operated by the DNC is sharing a fake AI-generated audio recording of Donald Trump Jr. trying to pass it off as real. The media should call them out for this pathetic behavior." But of course they won't. They absolutely won't. Okay? There's a screenshot of the post itself, again, from @FactPostNews. Unbelievable. When they shared it last night, like I said, I saw it. I should have clipped it. I knew I should have grabbed the audio. The account Fact Post News was launched as a rapid response initiative to combat online misinformation. I dare you to try to make up something this idiotic. You can't, okay? You can't. You couldn't get your 5-year-old to make up something this dumb if you offered them ice cream, okay? Ironically, the account has an X bio that reads, "Posting facts." To run the account, the DNC brought in staffers from Kamala Harris's social media team during her presidential campaign. In a statement at the time the account was launched, DNC chief, I don't care. You don't care either. Look, this is not just about the idiocy of the left, okay? Or their desire to either be fooled or to fool their people or both. This is about their mindset, okay? Just the sheer fact that this, I mean, look, stuff gets posted on social media all the time. Some of it's real, some of it's not. A lot of times people will post something that's unreal, knowing that it's unreal, but they're not claiming to be fact checkers. This group claims to be fighting misinformation and disinformation. This group claims to be, it's literally in their name, posting facts. Now, you would think that hearing something like this, hearing a bombshell, because that would be a bombshell. If Donald Trump Jr. said we should be backing Russia instead of Ukraine, sending Russia weapons instead of Ukraine, that would be a huge breaking news, right? But the fact that they posted it with no corroboration, it's because they are so just, it's a mental illness. It really legitimately is a mental illness. They see that and they don't question it at all. In their minds, it makes sense that, of course, Donald Trump Jr. would want to back Russia because he's a Trump. And as a result, this is totally 100% legit. No need to spend the 12 seconds it takes to run this through an AI generation checker. You can just pop it in there and say, hey, is this audio real? And it'll say it's a 30% chance it's AI or 60% or 90% or whatever. And in this case, it was 100%. From what I didn't check it myself, but it's others who checked it said that it came back as 99% was what they said. 99% chance that it was AI generated. they didn't go that far. They didn't spend the 12 seconds. And again, this comes back to either they're really just, their mental illness has taken over so much that they're making choices that are just stupid, truly, legitimately, full-blown stupid, or they knew what they were doing, and they were hoping, begging, pleading, because they're trying to find some kind of dirt, something that they can say, oh, look, see, Trump's so bad, or Trump Jr.'s so bad, or Elon Musk or somebody's so bad. They can't find anything bad, so they have to manufacture it. It's one or the other. Either they're stupid or they are trusting in the stupidity of their audience, of the Trump derangement syndrome suffering people of America. And there's quite a few of them, unfortunately. I don't know if it's 3%, 5%, 20%, but there is a large portion of the population of the United States that suffers from Trump derangement syndrome. They're also developing, obviously, Musk derangement syndrome. It's sad. It's a very sad testament. And, we say either they're stupid or they think their people are stupid. I'm going to go with both. Why not both? Is the bird flu just the latest example of the powers that be attacking our food supply? I would argue that yes, it almost certainly is. Now, I'm not a doctor, not a scientist. I'm not sitting there in a laboratory looking into bird flu and trying to figure out if it was man-made or if it's, really spreading to whoever, or if it's in this milk or that chicken or those eggs or whatever. I'm not doing any of that. All I'm doing is looking at the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall for the last few years has said, hey, they're attacking our food supply. It was Klaus Schwab. No. Sorry, it was the other guy, Henry Kissinger. There we go. His predecessor, his mentor. It was Henry Kissinger who said, who controls the food supply can control the people. And it seems as if that's exactly what they are trying to do. I'm a huge fan of, number one, freeze drying your own food, okay? If you have the time and the money, go get you a freeze dryer. You can go to jdrucker.com/harvest, jdrucker.com/harvest to get you a very high quality freeze dryer, the freeze dryer that we use in my companies. Or if you don't want to spend that kind of money, because they're pretty expensive, or you don't have the time or the energy or whatever, you don't want to do it yourself, it's time to stock up on long-term storage food. You can find 4, count them, 4 awesome options, ways that you can start to accumulate, or continue if you already started, to accumulate high-quality long-term storage food, oftentimes food that will last 25 years. Start getting it built up as best you can, because there may come a time in the not-too-distant future when acquiring food will not be as easy as it is today here in the United States of America. We're already seeing inflation. That's already hitting us. What happens if they inflate it all the way? What if they really try to make us eat lab-grown meat, quote-unquote meat abominations, or whatever, lab-grown something, GMO this, GMO that, or heck, bugs, crickets, cricket burgers. Get in line for your mealworm bread, the mealworm bread lines. Gosh, so many possible ways that they can come after us, attacking food production plants, again, bird flu, whatever. And I don't think, people, well, no, the Trump administration won't do that. I don't think this is the Trump administration, to be clear. If anything, I would say that the most likely candidate, of course, is the globalist elite cabal. Second most likely candidate would be Communist China. Okay, there's a reason why they're buying up as much farmland as possible. And for whatever reason, we've allowed that. But hey, I'm focused on the future. Go to jdrucker.com/food, jdrucker.com/food, and stock up on as much long-term storage food as you can. Stay prayerful, my friends. Stay prayerful. I didn't get to talk nearly enough today. There's so much politics. I know. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Yes, we are going to get into more spiritual discussions, faith-driven discussions, conspiratorial discussions. It's just when there's so many pieces of both good and bad news happening in the world of politics, it sucks me in. But we will hopefully be more Lord willing, more focused on those things that are, in my humble opinion, far more important than what's happening in the world of politics. These are the things that I love to talk about more so than just what's happening with the DNC fact checkers or what's happening with the IRS buildings or any of that stuff. I want to get into the important stuff, the things that matter, the things that abide. And we will. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Be sure to thumbs up or like or whatever if you have not already. And be sure to share. That's one thing I never ask you to do, but I'm going to ask today, share today's show with anyone you can. Share it on your social media. Call a friend. Say, hey, friend, I'm gonna help you to see the world through a better lens. I want you to watch this show, and then tell them to subscribe and thumb up and share. And if we just keep doing it like this, then the show can grow. And if the show can grow, then figure out something that rhymes with grow. If the show can grow, then the world can know. I used to be a poet. Back when I was a young lad, I was far more poetic than I am today. Now I'm just a cynical old man. But you know you love it. I will be back. I pray that I'll be back. Lord willing, I'll be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, y'all stay strong, stay safe.